do not necessarily reflect those of the QATV staff or board of directors. QATV, in compliance with FCC regulations, is prohibited from exercising control over the content of independent, member-produced public access programming.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Tom Williams' long-running TV show here on the Quincy Public Access Channel, Sound Advice. My name is attorney John Duane. I am filling in for Tom this week as he's on one of his adventures. I believe he's up in Newfoundland for this installment anyway. So today we're going to speak about how we can grow your business by using the internet. And if you're not using the internet to grow your business, you should be. So we have today a professional in the industry, and she is going to educate us on exactly how you can grow your business using the internet. For those of us who may not know step one about that process, all the way up to those who have an idea of what they should be doing by using the internet to grow their business, but maybe need to get a few pointers or maybe sharpen the pencil a little bit on that front. So how are you today?
I'm well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here.
Yeah.
And we are going to, your company is called Marketing Superheroes. You're based right here in Quincy. I understand you are a third generation Quincy?
Third generation Quincy girl.
Very nice,
Yeah.
very nice. We like to support Quincy businesses. So what's the first step? When you meet with a potential client, what is the first thing that you do? I assume you maybe kind of analyze where they're at, but what goes into that process?
Yeah, so pretty much when you're first thinking about how to begin attacking the beast that social media and online marketing can seem at first, is really an assessment or an audit, sort of a discovery of where you are and of course where you want to go, and what the market is all about. It depends on what you're selling, right? Like if you're a mom and pop, you're going to have a different strategy than if you're selling software or something. So you kind of assess where you're at and where you need to go.
Right, and you know, it's got to be completely industry specific. I mean, every case must have their own, you know, again, where are you and where do you want to be? So, and I imagine your clients range from, again, like you said, just Mr. and Mrs. Smith trying to sell whatever widget they have, all the way up to, you know, large corporate clients and everything in between. So, you know, you mentioned social media earlier, and I think most people out there probably are aware of Facebook and, you know, things like that, but if you're, my sense is that if Facebook is the only social media outlet that you're aware of, you're probably behind the times, and to be quite honest, I might fall into that group. So maybe you can bring me and the audience up to speed on some of the other social media outlets that are, I don't even know if competitors with Facebook is the right word, but some other outlets that are out there.
Well, I think one of the common mistakes that happens is you sort of see it all and you don't really begin, or maybe you're just on Facebook, but I think moving backwards to just thinking through search and Google search. So making sure small businesses, medium-sized businesses have all claimed their Google listing. So you just go to Google Business Listing and make sure you claim your business. Make sure all of that information is completely filled out and you have the proper branded materials up, like a logo, some great images of your location, your staff, and promote there early and often, because you want to use your keywords on Google Plus and really start your outgoing messaging there, because you want to come up high on Google. And then the social media stuff is going to support bringing people back into your website, right? So it's all about inbound marketing. You want to bring people into your community, and that starts with your website. So that's sort of like the hub of your operation. So then you'd come out with like an Instagram, a Snapchat, you know, Twitter, definitely people can capitalize on Twitter. It's a great way to grow your network with people that are unaware of you. So you're growing your circle of influence that way.
All right, so when you talk about, I mean, I think most people out there are aware that Google is the search engine of choice now. So, you know, if you're, I was thinking of an example, let's say a hardware store. So you want to, you know, my sense is you want to be, if you're a hardware store in Quincy, you want to make sure that if someone punches Quincy hardware store into Google, you're the first one that comes up. And I believe you were, you know, that's kind of what we were getting into there. So there are ways, I believe there are ways you can kind of manipulate that search so that if there are 25 hardware stores in Quincy and you've done a little bit of this legwork in the background, that's how you become the #1 hardware store that pops up. Is that how? I mean, without giving too many of your secrets away, I suppose.
Right. Well, no, because there's not too many secrets to SEO is search engine optimization, and then we all have heard social media. And those two things work in tandem to bring people to your business. So like what you're saying works really well with social media. And an easy, like do-it-yourself kind of way is to do two things. One is to always update the content on your website and then share that content on social media. The other thing is to go get a lot of reviews. And that's something a small business can do themselves, but you need everyone in the business to be excited about doing that and to do it consistently. So Yelp is super important for a hardware store in Quincy to make sure they've filled out their entire profile. At this point, I think most companies that are brick and mortar do understand the importance of Yelp and getting reviews, but you can also have check-ins on Facebook. Conduct Twitter and Instagram campaigns where you're asking people to hashtag, post an image of themselves in the store, and then come up with a simple campaign. If you do something like that on Friday, we'll give you 50% off the, you know, paint that day, or maybe that's too much to give away. But something that makes sense for each business, and each business is going to have a different giveaway. Today we just came up with one. We're going to give away Taylor Swift tickets.
All right.
She is my power animal. I'm like, I totally want to go to this concert. I'm like, that's going to be so fun. Yeah, so stuff like that where people are going to really be talking about the campaign that you're giving, that's another level of thinking that you can do to bring traffic to your social media sites and in turn bring more business in the door, because like any branding campaign, you just want people to know and understand who you are, what you do, and what makes you unique in your field, which is super important.
Right. I've actually heard somebody refer to it as, you know, think of what is your unfair advantage and how do you...
Love it.
You know,
yeah.
I know. I like that too.
That's great.
And so, you know, I think there's probably a good segment of the audience who may be saying, yeah, you know what, I mean, I do feel that there are a few people out there that are saying, well, you know, I'm doing just fine with my, you know, non-internet sales methods, and I get enough business off of word of mouth. What would you, and again, I know it's kind of industry specific, but what's your first response to somebody that's their position?
Well, I think that's wonderful if you have enough business to sustain yourself, but I would take it one level further and say, much like how the business card and the brochure in print was 10 years ago, it's also, let me actually go back, because I think it's more like the outfit that you're wearing and how you present yourself, because once you meet someone, they hear about you. Most times today, people are going to go to your website, they're going to check out your LinkedIn profile, they're going to see what you're doing online and who you are. So just like you're going to hire a good bookkeeper, you're going to have your accounting in order, you should have your marketing in order so that your brand looks like the people that come to do business for you. So you're coming to my office today to be my lawyer, you look good. I trust you. I'm like, all right, this guy's got it going on. Great. You want your website to do the same thing because it carries that much weight. If you break the chain of trust, so they get to your website and they say, wow, these guys haven't updated their site in 15 years, well, what are you going to think? The assumption might be that they either don't have enough whereabouts to know that that's important, or maybe they don't have the funds to do it,
right.
Or maybe they don't know what to do. Whatever it is, it's a feeling of, oh, you know, they don't have this. So maybe your reputation is strong. It's strong enough that it can maintain that, but I would say go in and fix that, because that's an area that is important. It's going to be more important as we move forward.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
And, you know, even in reference to, you know, our own firm, I mean, we're constantly, you know, making sure that our web presence is, you know, is adequate. I mean, I think in our business we feel that it's probably not the first point of contact that people you know, I doubt that many people, they might, but are putting Quincy real estate attorney, and usually there's kind of a familiarity with the office. But I think what you educated me on earlier in the show is just as important. They may have heard of your firm or your business from some other source, but the first place they're going to do their research about your company is the internet. So, you know, again, if you say, well, that's never going to be my primary source of new business, what it will be, like you said, is where most of your potential customers are going to be checking up on you, whether, you know, no matter how they've heard of your business. So I think that's a whole nother component to it that maybe a lot of people underestimate. So, and so again, to kind of demystify this whole internet marketing topic for the audience, my sense is that a lot of the sales, you know, what goes along with selling your business in the non-internet sense, a lot of the same topics are the same.
Yeah, I think the philosophy is very similar, right? And the experience should be similar. So that much like when people meet you, then they go online and it's the same thing. There's like a handshake when they get to your website. What does that mean? That's sort of like, I think of it as your website feels like there's a human element to it, right? Now that would be very different for a law firm than if you were selling cookies, right? It's a different tone. Nonetheless, web copy is different than writing a novel or even anything in print. It should anticipate the language that your viewer uses. So if that happens everywhere now, right? So even magazine writing, it's like, it's just a little bit different than you would write something for print. You have to think the person is likely on their phone. If they're on a larger device, there's still a different tone where you really want to make that human connection. And if your language and the images you use can do that, then you've succeeded in making a human connection, which is what everybody wants. We know everybody wants to buy from a person.
Right, and you know, that's one of the main things they teach you in law school is how to effectively communicate. If you're using a bunch of large words that no one understands, well, then you're not really effectively communicating. So that was one of the big tenets of law school was, you know, communicate to your audience. And while we're probably driving English teachers everywhere crazy, but you do have to, there's an informality, I guess, to, like you say, the magazine writing and then, you know, writing on the internet. But again, in our circumstance, we want to make sure we sound like lawyers when people are viewing our website. But you know, for whatever industry you're in, you know, you tailor your message to the audience you're trying to reach out to. So, going back again, just so I can educate myself. It sounds like you can use social media and maybe, you know, clicks on your website and clicks on your offers, like you were saying, your special offers that are internet-based. Does that activity alone jump you up the list on a Google search?
So getting reviews, and definitely getting reviews through your Google business page will help you. The faster you can get reviews. So you don't want to go crazy getting 500 reviews in a week. You would be better off consistently growing your reviews by asking consistently. So reviews are really important in social media interaction, makes you more relevant. So part of the algorithm and all that means is what Google's looking for criteria that makes you come to the top of a search query. It's going to be if you're relevant to others.
So there you go. I mean, that answers that. I mean, the algorithm or formula that Google has, there's an actual math formula behind that, that if there are, you know, certain clicks on certain social media websites, that shows that there's activity, and Google wants to jump you up the list. And I know that there was recently some, I don't know if controversy is the right word, but Google had reformatted that algorithm to say that if your website wasn't mobile compatible, you were going to be bumped down the list. Is that something?
That's very real.
Yeah, right.
Yes, that is a real threat in the world. So what I suggest is getting with somebody who understands search criteria and social media when you're building your website. So you can update. Yeah, we do that.
Okay.
So I don't know
so
if I'm
that's
allowed to
something.
say that,
So So in other words, that's
websites are really important, and as I said before, it's the hub of your operation, and you want to make sure it's a responsive site so that your code can be read on any size device. So if you're on an iPad, the site looks as good as it does if you're on a cell phone. So it's so important that, though, depending on your market, right, each audience segment has different percentages for how many people are on mobile, but you're averaging between 30 and 50% of searches are on mobile devices now. So it's a huge number, and it's only climbing.
Yeah, I would imagine that is only going to climb. And I knew I was going to learn more on this show than any other show that I've interviewed guests on. The other question, it flew by there, but you mentioned a Google business page. Now, is that another place that I have to now
right, one more thing to do.
Right,
I know, one more thing to do.
So in addition to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter for some people.
Yeah.
So is Google Business, is that another page that we would set up? Or?
Yes, you set up a Google Business listing page. And what I suggest you do for kind of figuring out if you haven't started any of these, or what oftentimes happens is somebody started one or two and then they sort of leave them by the wayside, is making a couple of hard decisions about what you really want to commit to and what you think will work best for your company, and then consistently posting and understanding those channels. Because if you say you're going to start 5 different social media channels like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you won't do it, right? Unless you have a dedicated person or company that will do it for you. Then you'll see consistent growth. Because what I've found is that whatever channel you really work, you really dedicate to, will produce revenue. It will affect your bottom line if you do it correctly. So if you want to do LinkedIn, everyone should do LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
But you only have to do, you can do LinkedIn
LinkedIn
less. Like, LinkedIn isn't heavy lifting, okay? Twitter, you can post 25 tweets a day for a large national company, right? And that's going to give you consistent growth. But if you have a small business, you don't want to tweet 25 times a day.
No.
You could tweet twice. Instagram, you want to post once a day, up to 3 times tops. LinkedIn is great to check in every day, make sure if anyone's messaged you, you've responded in a timely manner, and make sure you have an optimized profile so everything's filled out. You have a great image that you look good in, ideally a professional image, and
use a stand
your content's
if you have
good.
to. No.
And then post one thing a day or post one thing a week on LinkedIn. Come up with a realistic goal and then consistently meet that goal. So you don't have to take on the world. I just think you don't do it, right?
Right. I mean, we all know the effect it would have on a customer of a a phone call that's not returned. And in reference to what you were saying, if you're all of a sudden say, well, I'm going to be everywhere on the internet, put me on all those social media websites. I want to be on all, there's too many to count at this point.
Yeah.
If you're not answering them, you are going to have the opposite effect of what you're looking for.
Right.
So, I think that is something that marketing superheroes or companies such as yours can help you, make sure that you don't bite off more than you can chew with something like that, because you're, the ultimate goal is to bring in more business, and that you don't want to become non-responsive. I mean, that's, to be quite honest, that's always my biggest fear, is you worry that you're just creating another channel for people to get angry for not getting back to them.
Right.
So, to me, and there's probably something like this out there that would, I don't know if there is or not, but that may direct all of these different sources of contact. It'd be nice if it sent me a text that said, you have a new message on Twitter.
Yeah, there's software like that
there
that
is,
you can,
okay.
you can plug into to make sure you can get response.
Because I think it would be wise, for our, for Tom Williams' particular website, if we, I know that we can receive emails over through our website. And if we kind of built that up, that would be more of an interactive, way to interact with the internet community out there.
Yeah, I think that would be great. You could incentivize people signing up to your email. So what you could do is say, sign up to my email, and I'll give you a downloadable free, and I don't know what that is right now, but maybe something that's very timely. If there's any sort of law changes that are sort of across the board with a lot of your clients, that would give them some insight into their current problems. So it can be like a 5-page white document where it's longer than a blog, you could design it, and they can download it. So there's an exchange. You've given them something of value, you grab their email, and then you can market to them on an ongoing basis and continue to add value for them. The philosophy behind that, or the thinking, is that ideally and eventually they buy from you. So it's like, it's a sales funnel. At the top of the sales funnel, there's a small percentage of people that are looking for you right away, and they're ready to buy. They know your reputation, they know they need you, they buy right then. There's a small number at the top, and as the sales funnel goes down, so then you communicate with the people who aren't ready right away. They were doing research. They wanted to know if you're going to follow up with them in a consistent manner, and you're always going to be on target with your communication. So then they jump down to the next bracket, and eventually the toughest people to get to buy, that take the longest time, they buy at the end of the sales funnel. But it's always giving them opportunities and using the technology available to move them down their process of buying from you.
Yeah, we've often thought of perhaps sending out some sort of newsletter, and again, I guess probably luckily for me in the real estate business, I don't know if there's enough law changes to support a daily or maybe even a weekly newsletter or something like that. I was thinking, quarterly to maybe 6 times a year, and again, as to kind of fill out what we're trying to do on the with our internet presence.
And you could add some stuff about personality and what you're doing like this, right? There's all of these other components to a company and a brand that, again, humanize the brand. So making you more understandable to me as a buyer. So I locate you as not a hard-to-reach law firm that I'm not going to feel comfortable in, right? Obviously, we want to always relay trust and all of the things that a good lawyer stands for. You guys are really well established. You understand what's going on with law. You know, all of these things. But you could also tell stories and share things that are public. You can't share everything in law, so it is a different beast. But there's so much personality in a company if you just know how to tell the story well. And knowing how to tell your story can sometimes be the hardest part.
Well, if any, I'm sure the audience is familiar with Tom Williams, and if personality and knowing how to tell a story is the key, I think we're in good shape, because Tom is the master of the story, and he's the master of personality. And if we can, just like you said, if we can get that presence onto the internet in a way, I mean, even just Tom's travels, I mean, that alone would be enough to fill up a lot and add some personality to the website. But if like I say, anyone familiar with the firm, I think would agree that we're not lacking in personality. It's just a matter of getting that out there to the ones who aren't aware yet. So so I think we've kind of helped people figure out the a little bit of the mechanics behind how you can jump to the front of that Google search, and it is certainly a lot more involved than a layperson such as myself could probably ever hope to figure out. But and I do you find that certain businesses are, or is that part of what you do, is analyze the business and say, well, this outlet is better for your type of business, and this outlet, and is it is it something easy like these classes of businesses fall into this more than that, or is it really that, is it so industry or case specific that it's
usually, it's more of who the audience is. So as far as where you should be online, you really need to conduct an analysis of where the audience is and what they're looking for online and what words they use and what emotions they have around your offer, right? So if you're selling pens, it's a different beast than if you're selling airplanes, right? Like are you like is it utility? Is it passion? Are you selling it adventure? Like what is it? And then define that underlying emotion that somebody hopes and fears, right? Are you saving them? Are you helping them? You know what I mean? I'm going to save you from this catastrophe. I'm going to help you lose 50 pounds. What is the emotion behind what you give them, and then what makes you unique? And then you circle around this story, right? And you turn that story into a digital medium through words and visuals. And it's really that simple. If you can define your edges in a way. So as far as like the personality, we all have edges where like this is who I am and this is what I stand for, and if we can define that with the language and the images we choose to portray ourselves with, the channels in the actual technology is actually pretty simple.
The word that keeps running through my mind is demographic. Obviously,
Yeah.
you know, again, it's knowing your audience. But, you know, if you have a skeptic out there who says, look, I'm not chasing the 18 to 25-year-old crowd, and I'm an older person who thinks that that's, you know, those are the only people fooling around with all these social media sites. I think that that's the group of people that I think would serve to benefit the most from speaking with someone like yourself. And how, you know, again, I know some of it's case specific, but what are some ways, even if the, you know, the target audience that you're trying to sell to may not be in that 18 to 25 crowd, you know, like I'm trying to think, what if you're selling wheelchairs or I don't know, something that only, or, you know, here we go, here's a good one, estate planning. Yeah. You know, I mean, again, there's a certain, and this isn't, I mean, I just probably sounded like I'm discriminating based on age, and I, to refute that, I will say that my dear mother knows far more about computers and social media than I do. So
there you go, a little shout out.
Nothing to do with age. And I don't want to generalize any certain group, but is there?
Well, most of the businesses that I work with now are not selling to the younger demographic. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
All right. So, I don't think there's. I would be shocked if somebody could come up with a commodity or something you're trying to sell that you could give me a good argument where you don't need to have a stronger internet presence. I honestly couldn't think of.
Yeah, nowadays I think you are going to just hurt yourself if you don't do something about social media. It's pretty much, it's the way that we're all communicating and getting information. Like how often do you do a Google search before you go to a new town to explore what to do? Or, you know, you heard about a new restaurant, you're going to go check out the menu online.
Right.
I mean, it's just sort of, it's the next thing that you do. Or if you're going to invite someone, you know, to your house, they're probably going to look up on Google Maps how to get there.
Right, and again, I've used the words case specific, you know, 25 times by now. So we'll use my office as an example. So say I come in and meet with you. What would be the, you know, the first things that we talk about in our initial meeting?
Yeah. So okay, we would definitely start with the story. And that's the first thing. So I ask a series of questions about your personality and stuff we've already talked about here. So your unique offer, what makes you different from your competitors, where your audience is online, and what they're looking for in reference to what you do. You also want to look at your competitors and what they're doing. So some people don't like to do that, right? There's like pain in that. They're like, oh no, I know what my competitors do. Well, it's always nice to understand what they're doing and keep track of what they're doing. You're not going to really steal ideas or anything like this. You're going to just keep up with what they're doing, so you're on top of it, right?
Sure.
And sometimes you do garner great ideas. You're like, that was great how they said that. So
yeah, you absolutely.
that's really important. And then you come up with a simple way to look at what you're doing online and saying, these are the couple of things that we need to do. Here's who in the office is going to do what. Because sometimes the CEO should be writing the blog, and other times the office administrator can do the social media. Right. So there's levels of strategy within everything that you'll do, and it's just defining who's going to do what. And then you launch, right? Then you make sure everything looks good online, that you have your blog strategy set up. If you're going to shoot video, stuff like that.
Very good. So, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the youngest person in the office gets to be a social media person.
I know.
It's the marketing person.
So sorry.
That is going to wrap up another edition of Sound Advice, Tom Williams' long-running TV show here on Quincy Public Access TV. So thank you to Megan Marini.
Thank you. That was great.
And I appreciate it and look forward to the next show. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.